Yo, what up, guys? Thank you so much for dropping by. Make sure you smash that like button. We're just gonna jump right into that God of War Ragnarok performance, so we can pretty much see all of the benchmarks on all of the consoles. And if you have a PS4, PS4 Pro, or PS5, you guys will get a better understanding how the game is going to run on each console. I have been hearing have been talks out here in these gaming streets that this game have not been pretty much performing up to par. It have not been capped off at 60, and even probably higher, so we're going to pretty much jump into this video, and the video is pretty much going to let you guys know how this game is going to run, so we don't have no speculation. People throwing all these crazy numbers out there, and they don't really know what they're talking about. Like, I always like to go to the main source for you guys so that you can see it for yourself, so that you can see that I'm not capping. And those Decepticons over there at Sony's front office just needs to do better, flat out. Give the fans what they want. Stop worrying about trying to block Call of Duty Activision Blizzard deal and Xbox and Uncle Phil and get on your job. We don't want to see these excuses that you guys are making. They are making way too many excuses, and when you're being paid this type of money, I'm talking about they are throwing hundreds and millions, even billions of dollars around in the gaming industry, and people are making excuses that they can't have a game running at a smooth 60 FPS. That is a problem. They're almost acting like that is impossible to run. Like, how? We're paying you hundreds and millions of dollars. How is this hard to get this game to perform at the frame rate, the resolution, the ray tracing? Why is this game still in the oven cooking? Why would you even need to patch a game? I mean, what are they doing? At this time, it should not be any excuses, especially if you're running on old hardware, last gen hardware. You're making games on last gen hardware, bro. You're not even working on fully next gen games yet. If it was fully next gen and it was only on PS5, then I can say, okay, I get it, bro. I get it. Yeah, this is going to be a big test. This is going to put every developer, studio, everyone to the test. Everyone, because we already know what to expect. This is going to probably be buggy. We're going to have screen tearing. We're going to have frame drops. It's not going to be capped off. Most of everything may hit 50, 60 every now and then. But we're just going to dive right into it, man.
Cross-generation remains in Ragnarok, but is this going to be a winter of discontent for PlayStation 4 and Pro? A PlayStation 5 is significantly more powerful than the PS4 and Pro versions of consoles, and the modes and outputs here reflect that, as right from loading you are asked what mode do you want to enjoy this at. From the highest pixel quality to the latest 120 FPS frame rates, you have some big choices to make, and there are some big leaps over last generation. Starting with the PlayStation 5 first, we have two core modes, favor resolution and favor performance. There's a third toggle in terms of high frame rate mode, which I'll touch on in a moment. Favor resolution targets a native 3840 by 2160 at 30 FPS on a 60Hz screen, and this is the clearest, sharpest version to play. Favor performance now takes that same 4K output from the resolution mode with some caveats give or take, and now targets a dynamic 4K but at 60 FPS as a ceiling. But by turning on that high frame rate mode with a 120Hz screen, the resolution mode now dynamically scales to 1800p but targets 40 FPS, and that performance mode is fixed at 1440p with potentially reaching 120. The options here are excellent, and they really improve the performance, the input times, and the response of a game that plays as well as this. The Pro is similar with two modes. Both use DRS, with the resolution scaling between 1440p to 1656p, again with that TAA pass, and the performance drops the base down to 1080p now, still scaling back to 1656, but it can frequently be at 1080p. Finally, the PS4 rounds all of these up with the same 1920 by 1080p at 30 FPS, and this gives you many options to play this incredible title. The choice and effort to ensure each platform is utilised stands out, and I'm sure even Kratos himself is impressed, right?
No!
Nah, he was always a difficult man to please anyway. Let's start with the PlayStation 5 and its performance. Using that 120 FPS 4K quality mode, from the first few hours it manages to deliver on that promise, meaning the 30 FPS is locked if you have a 60Hz screen or choose to turn off that high frame rate mode in the menu. It can have a couple of dips into the high 30s in heavier action, and even on occasion just skips into the next refresh of 33 milliseconds, but as the gap from 25 to 33 milliseconds is only 8, these are all but invisible. The game also supports VRR, and if you do have a VRR screen, it can then boost above 40 FPS, with those small spikes up and down being managed by the VRR display. I noted no issues in this mode, so if you do wish to have the best visual package and performance, this is the mode to choose. For those that don't know and want the highest frame rates, then you can go for that 120 FPS mode, which basically is the performance mode with the cap removed. This means you often fluctuate somewhere between 80 to 90 FPS in action. It feels very responsive, it feels brilliant to play and looks cracking. In fact, it's very hard after a few minutes of play to really notice the difference between both modes, and if you are after the fastest, most responsive version of the title, then this is definitely the one to choose. It can hit 120 FPS in very quiet sections, but generally it's somewhere around that 80 to 90 FPS, putting it perfectly in the ballpark of almost doubling the performance, give or take, over that quality mode. The PlayStation 4 comes in with a pretty much locked 30 FPS, a couple of dips here and there, single frame jitters from cinematics, nothing major, and Sony Santa Monica have delivered a fitting swan song to the PS4 with no performance issues to concern yourself with. And this brings us to the final console in the Pro. Using that 1656 DRS solution at 30 FPS, the performance is as good as rock solid as the PS4, and there's certainly no issues here. It even has a better IQ than the checkerboard solution of the previous title. But the 60 FPS mode certainly has some judder. Averaging somewhere between 45 to the low 50s at best means it can feel very close to the same kind of performance as previous titles on the PS3, such as God of War 3 or Ascension. It's certainly more responsive and faster than a 30 FPS lock, but do not expect a locked 60 FPS most of the time, and in heavy combat, cinematics and certainly some of the denser worlds you can get quite a bit of camera judder as it skips into the next refresh of 33 milliseconds. The dynamic resolution scaling along with that TAA certainly helps the image quality, but it can often be 1080p, but performance is good if not great.
Watch your left!
The core assets, the character models, materials, exceptional particle and visual effects, animation are all close to identical no matter which platform you continue your journey on. And from that perspective, the fact the base PS4, a piece of hardware over 10 years old now from a technological build perspective, still offers such incredible visual and performance levels is more than worthy of applause. Even more impressive is the fact the team have improved many areas over the original 2018 release. A big area of the game's exhaustive special effects is its heavy reliance on GPU accelerated particles. From dead bodies decaying away that use an alpha blended test that collide with particles to allow each body to dynamically and dramatically decay, this is increased in Ragnarok, with prophecy sequences amongst others having an exuberant amount of particles spawning, colliding and glowing from PS4 to PS5. The FX suite the team has access to and leverages so well provide one of the game's core visual identity pillars, and the central single shot camera system ensures you are always front and center of each blow, and it's always incredible. Being a story of gods and monsters, Kratos is a hulking anti-hero with his presence always looming but never overpowering. Again, the team managed that here with his stature being used and abused based on the story and enemies you face. The unique single camera shot system returns and always keeps you in the game, as all gameplay to cinematics are seamless back and forth, with it dynamically shifting in the midst of battle or even when you simply make your way through the world. PBR materials are hyper-realistic again, with strong diffuse base colours mixed with a pro-based lighting system merged with baked elements due to the game's fixed lighting model. This helps aid the team's design focus and the performance levels of the older hardware. To aid the quality and dynamic nature of the gameplay, the engine uses a mixture of shadow maps and then screen space shadows and screen spaced ambient occlusion. You can see the telltale artifacts of these when occluded and disoccluded by foreground objects. They present the same as Reflections do in the title, which also use a mixed probe solution in projected cube maps with screen space reflections, with the PS4 and Pro using a lower resolution and ray march than the PlayStation 5. This provides longer and more accurate reflections on PS5, as you can see the shorter cutoff in the reflections. Shadows or AO can still fade out and in on smaller incidental details within the screen, but the quality all helps improve character lighting and grounding within the world, backed up with contact shadows on floors and walls. You can definitely see some light bleed and incorrect specular at times, even on PS5, which still uses the same core assets and lighting model, but like many things in the game, they are refined and enhanced on the newer machine. The single biggest boost the PlayStation 5 offers is the resolution, as all other areas are improved by it, including the game's temporal anti-aliasing, which helps the IQ even at 1080p look clean and sharp with very little aliasing present. But the PS5 in both mode though offers a crisp and clean image that can even be noticed over the Pro. The solution using the performance mode on PS5 is better than the Pro solution. Some of that comes from higher assets due to the larger RAM pool that the console offers, plus the AA and sharpening pass may also be slightly tweaked here and certainly better. The other change between the resolution and performance mode on PS5 is the fact that the shadow cascade is further into the distance, ambient occlusion is improved and shadow filtering for contact hardening is now added. In addition, the level of detail is improved with less imposters used off into the distance, higher geometry on objects and increased tessellation. Post putting this video together, we had a chance to chat with the development team and lead rendering programmer Steve McCreary. He explained some of the focus the team had at the start. Scalability is an important part of any modern rendering engine, particularly when you're supporting cross-platform and multiple graphics modes. And this was something confirmed in my analysis, with the newer solution of DRS having a better output than the checkerboard solution of the previous title. He went further, elaborating on the TAA solution in use, which does use an upsampling technique to reconstruct the image back, but on PlayStation 5 he also went into the detail that they use two areas to bolster the image further. One is a machine learning algorithm to resample and upsample the texture details dynamically in the game, and they use a bicubic upsampling and sharpening pass to improve the image when that DRS is in use. And this explains the reason why we're seeing better image quality at times in the performance mode over that flat 4K version on the quality resolution mode. He covered other areas such as improved tessellation, shadows, screen space directional occlusion and screen space global illumination. We will be covering much more of this in a later video or article, but for now it was enough to reinforce the fact that this is taking advantage of the PlayStation 5 and even maximising the PS4 and Pro better than the previous title. In summary, God of War Ragnarok is a technical and artistic triumph across all platforms. From PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, you lose none of the game's wow factor, from its seamless camera system, responsive and skill-based combat system, and a visual effects suite that impresses at every opportunity. As a cross-generational title at its heart, the PlayStation 5 does little more than boost resolution, performance and input on the DualSense, but that doesn't diminish what is an astounding title for all players.
Thank you guys so much, and there you have it guys, the performance for God of War Ragnarok on PS4 Pro and PS5. So make sure you guys smash that like, that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you guys can be notified on all of the new latest and greatest news in these gaming streets. And if you'd like to jump into the PlayStation ecosystem, the Xbox ecosystem, or check out some of my merch or order games or rent games, just click the links down below in the description. Thank you and peace.